Welcome to this video. In this video, I'll be looking at how air travel is these days. So I was traveling from Sydney to Bali in Indonesia in the second week of July of 2022, and I just had some crazy and chaotic flight in this trip. So I just want to have make this video to have a look at it. So this video is going to be something different than what I usually do. I began my flight to Bali in Sydney domestic airport, and I was going to Cairns in business class. So I got Qantas business class. So where I had some breakfast. After relaxing and having breakfast in the lounge, it was time for me to go and check out the gate and board my flight to Cairns.
Hi, so welcome aboard. How are you today? Thank you very much. Oh, you're that way as well, actually. Three in a row there. Hello, welcome aboard. Thank you, folks. So nice. One is here, and one is just over there. So one can go around the other way.
I must say the flight to Cairns was one of the best flights that I had in this trip. Uh, and the problems started to begin shortly after the flight. So I will talk to you about that later. And just after the takeoff, we were served with lunch. I went with the lamb pasty option with tomato sauce. It was the most delicious food ever. And we had some time to watch through some movies and we had a short hop to Cairns, which was roughly like 3.5 hours. We are shortly arriving into Cairns, and because of the bad weather in the east coast of Australia was lashing out with rains, uh, the visibility was low, and the landing was a bit bumpy. But on any other day, if you ever come to Cairns, you will see one of the most beautiful approaches ever, overshadowing the rainforest in Cairns. I remember I had a trip back in 2018, and it was the most beautiful landing ever. Unfortunately, because of the weather, I wouldn't be able to show you. One of the things that I love about Cairns is the beauty of the landing. So if you can look at the background, you can see the ocean, and sometimes if you're lucky, you can also see the Great Barrier Reef, which is home to Cairns, and also the land is so green, full of green because of the rainforest, and because of the weather today, the weather did not do any justice to the landing of our flight. It stole away the beauty of the views. After the arrival into Cairns, I had a 9.5 hour transit, and my flight departed at 9:30 in the evening. I waited for the next 6.5 hours in the airport, and at around 7 p.m. Local time, I was being informed that my flight to Bali has been cancelled. That was not something that I was looking for. I mean, I have been waiting for this flight for 811 days, and because of the pandemic and all that, I couldn't travel to Bali. I was really hoping to get to Bali tonight, but the crew offered me a flight like 3 days later. But my trip was only for 4 days, so it was not a good alternative. So I made another plan. I went to my hotel that I paid out of pocket, and uh, it's basically I had a very very crazy plan. So I had to go to Brisbane tomorrow, and from Brisbane, I had to go to Sydney back. I'm back to Sydney again, and from Sydney, I had to go to Jakarta. That will be in Qantas, and from Jakarta, I had to transfer into the domestic airport in Indonesia, and I had to fly to Bali, which is like 1.5 hour hop. So I just came to the airport the next morning way too early, and off to Brisbane we go. My other concerns in this flight was the connection time in Brisbane, which was roughly 20 minutes between a flight from Cairns and the flight to Sydney. Luckily, my flight was just like 2 gates apart at the Qantas terminal in Brisbane. So that was a very good relief, a sigh of relief for me. The flight from Brisbane on to Sydney was smooth and it was on time. So I basically had like a 3 hour wait in Sydney. Uh, I was resting at the launch in Sydney, and after that it was time to boarding. And finally, I was so relieved that I was boarding on the flight to Jakarta. Finally, at the end of the day, and I was so happy that I was going to Jakarta. look outside, and I can see that the weather was a bit cloudy, and they had a bit of a thunderstorm. So I can see the beautiful clouds that greeted me outside. The other thing that I love about flying in Indonesian airspace is if you're going from Bali to Jakarta or the other way around, you can always see a huge active volcanoes. Oh, we are back to Indonesia after 2.5 years. We are back to Indonesia. Even though my flight from Sydney to Jakarta took a long time to take off, but it did land in time, which was like quarter to 7 in the evening. I had ample time to pass through the immigration, and I had time to get my visa on arrival, and go through the customs, and then head on to the domestic airport to board the Air Asia flight to Bali. I roughly had like 2.5 hours, but my Air Asia flight was delayed, which I later found out as I was waiting in the waiting at domestic airport. So I was so happy that I made it back to my last connection flight of the night. So we are going to board Air Asia. I never thought I would say this, but but we are going into Air Asia. So that's our flight. Our flight is going to be an Airbus A320 to Bali. I have now boarded an Airbus A320 machine, so it will be very interesting to see the difference. After a really crazy and a long day, I just boarded my flight to Bali. The local time at Jakarta was like 10 past 10 in the night, which is like 1 o'clock back home. And I was so excited, and I was going through a lot before this trip, so I haven't slept for the past 2 days, and because of that, I did not record much in this trip. So I remember like I also didn't have a window seat for the trip. The best I can do is I can get some sleep before I go to Bali. That's exactly what I did. I had no recollection of the takeoff or so. I was almost giving up on sleep, and finally I was happy that I came landed into Bali. Luckily for me, in this leg of the trip, I didn't have any luggage delay or anything. But however, my flight got cancelled in from Cairns to Bali, which was really disappointing. The way back home to Australia in Sydney was another indirect route that I flew from. So from Bali, I went all the way to Melbourne, and from Melbourne, I connected on to Sydney. So let's have a look at the highlights of this trip in part two of this video. Hope you enjoy it. So that is the flight that took me to Bali in the first place like a couple of minutes ago. I totally enjoyed my experience here. I would like to come back soon. So that's our bird for today. So finally, I'm back into the flight to Melbourne, and in this flight, just as I was about to enter, we got the great vibes of the great Australian hospitality by the very friendly crew on board, and they were very pleasant and cheerful and everything, and they help in the in boarding, which was a very good vibe. Just as that's exactly what I expect from the crew in Qantas. Sorry, man. So this is my seat back home. We took off from Bali on schedule, uh, uh, and it was with a very heavy heart that I had to leave Bali. Uh, so uh, so I tried to enjoy the flight, which was for the next 5.5 hours to Melbourne first, and then on to Sydney. So just after takeoff, the food was served, and and we had three delicious option on board, which was the chicken or beef with rice, or tofu with rice. So I went with the tofu option, just to reflect on the recent food meals I had in Indonesia. Just after meal was served and they cleared it off, it was time for the low review, which you can see currently on the video. So we are landing. We're about to land. It's like 6:09 a.m. and we're like it says 5 more minutes to fly into Melbourne. I normally come to Australia from Sydney, but my trip was a very crazy one. So this was the itinerary that I got. This was Melbourne, not Sydney. So I just have a connection to Melbourne. I just have a connection to Sydney from Melbourne. So we'll have to see if I can make it. I have around 2 hours in the airport before I go to Sydney.
Ladies and gentlemen, good morning and welcome to Melbourne. Local time is 20 minutes after 6. For your safety, those around you do remain.
So I just landed in Melbourne, and so this was the most smoothest and very fastest transfer private immigration here in Australia. Ever since this is my second flight overseas after the pandemic, and this was the smoothest and fastest connection ever in Australia. So it took like roughly 10 minutes to go there. So I had to find a way to my connection flight now to Sydney. I heard it's cancelled, but let's have a look at what happened. And I was supposed to go on the 7:50 a.m. service to Sydney, but I was bumped into the 8:50 a.m. service to Sydney because of the cancellation. So I had to go to the customer service desk in Melbourne Airport, and just after clearing clearing the customs and immigration, and getting through the getting out of the airport. I followed signs at the University Airport, and I went into the Qantas terminal, and over there I got my boarding passes for my new flight. So just after I got the boarding passes, I specifically asked the crew and that gave me the crew boarding pass that will my bags make it to my flight in Sydney. So they were like, it will be automatically tagged into my new flight. But however, because of uh, for some reason my bags didn't turn up, and I had to spend like half an hour to 1 hour waiting for my bag. And I had to finally after one hour, the I can see that my baggage carousel stopped. It was not good for me. And then I had to go to the Qantas baggage terminal in Sydney Domestic Airport at the Qantas terminal. So I had to ask them about my bag, and I had to fill in a missing baggage report. I think, and so I landed on the 11th, and I went home without my baggage. But the next morning, I got a notification that my bag was uh, found, and it will be delivered to me as soon as possible. I spent the next day waiting for my bag with no outcome. So I decided to go to the airport and inquire about my bag. Uh, that for me was the best decision I ever made in this trip. So I went to the airport in the next day, next morning, and I got my bags back. Uh, I was so happy to get back my bags after the long and crazy and chaotic trip that I had. Uh, to sum it all up, I know Qantas is facing a lot of issues without any staff. So I would not blame the staff, but the staff were indeed too friendly and hospitable to accompany me my needs and to take care of me. However, the because of the recent pandemic and the staff cuts and all that, I couldn't get my bags. That's totally understandable. I'm not making this video to put a solid blame on Qantas or anyone in that regard. But I'm just making this video. The whole purpose of this video was to show the exact condition that the airline industry is facing right now from a first hand basis. So I had everything from a delayed flight, and I spent the night in hotel when I was supposed to fly into Bali. And on the way back, I lost my bag for like 2 days, and that's all because of the aftermath of the pandemic that we just went through. Hopefully, fingers crossed, uh, we, we can have the glory day of flying back to us, like we used to enjoy it. So until then, I hope you enjoyed watching this video, and hope you enjoyed my chaotic trip to and from Bali from Sydney. If you like this video, please do subscribe to my channel, or if you want to join the discussion, please leave a comment and please do share with your mates. Thank you all for watching.